A long, long time ago, before smartphones, before clocks ticked on our walls, and long before electric lights chased away the night, people went to sleep under stars they actually knew by name. They lived by candlelight, by the moon, by firelight, and their sleep was nothing like ours. In the medieval world, sleep was often taken in two parts. Yes, two parts. People in many parts of Europe practiced something called segmented sleep. They would go to bed shortly after sunset, sleep for about 4 hours, then wake up for an hour or two, and then they would go back to sleep again. This break in the middle of the night was called the watch. During this quiet in-between time, people would pray, or write, or stoke the fire, or even visit neighbors. Sometimes they would make love. In fact, some medical texts from the time said that this in-between period was the best time for intimacy. Strange? Perhaps. But to them, it was just normal. Sleep was not private. In medieval homes, privacy was rare. Beds were shared by parents and children, by guests, by servants, and sometimes even by animals. Imagine falling asleep to the soft snoring of a pig nestled near the foot of your straw-filled mattress, or hearing the rustle of chickens in the corner. That wasn't strange. That was life. Beds weren't always comfortable either. The wealthy might have thick mattresses stuffed with feathers, placed on ornate bed frames with heavy drapes to block out cold and light. But the poor, they often slept on sacks of hay, or on simple wooden platforms, or sometimes just on the floor. And yet, they dreamed. They dreamed in languages we can't hear anymore. They dreamed of saints and demons, of harvests and of war. They dreamed in Latin and in Old French, in Middle English and in silence. Some believed dreams had meaning, that they were messages from God, or warnings, or temptations sent by the devil. There are records, yes, real ones, of monks waking in the middle of the night frightened by visions of angels or beasts, of peasants who feared the night hag, a spirit said, to sit on your chest while you slept, stealing your breath. Today we call that sleep paralysis, but back then they called it a curse. In some parts of Europe, people even placed knives under their pillows to ward off evil spirits, not to use, just to protect. A blade beneath the head to guard the sleeping soul. Children were lulled to sleep, not with lullabies, but with prayers to keep the fairies away. Yes, fairies. Not the tiny, sparkling kind you see in storybooks today, but ancient, powerful beings who could steal a baby in the night and leave behind a changeling. To stop this, some parents would tie red ribbons to their baby's cradle or place iron scissors under the pillow. Sleep was not always safe, but it wasn't always feared either. There was comfort in routine. The monastery bells would ring, marking the hours, matins, lauds, prime. A rhythm that beat through the lives of monks and nuns. They would rise in the dead of night to pray, often in cold stone chapels, chanting in darkness, wrapped in wool and silence. Their sleep, too, was segmented, short naps between prayers, and yet many believed this sacrifice of rest brought them closer to God. In castles, nobles would sometimes sleep sitting up. Why? Because it was believed that lying flat was too much like death. To lie completely flat was something only the dead did. So, people would prop themselves with pillows, half reclining. You might say they were afraid of death, or perhaps just respectful of it. In cities, things were no quieter. Without electric lights, the night was deep and full of sounds. Dogs barking, drunks singing, the occasional clatter of horse hooves on cobblestone. Watchmen patrolled the streets, calling out the hour. 3 o'clock, and all is well. Sometimes they would knock on doors to rouse the faithful for early prayers. There were no alarm clocks. Instead, there were people called knocker-uppers. Yes, real people. Armed with long sticks or pea shooters, they would tap on your window at the requested time to wake you. Imagine hiring someone just to wake you up by tapping your glass with a stick. And in colder places, sleep was sometimes shared. Not just for company, but for warmth. Bundling was common, where two people, often young couples, would sleep in the same bed with a board between them. A way to get to know each other without crossing a line. In inns, it wasn't uncommon for strangers to share beds. Space was precious, money was tight. You might lie down next to a person you'd never met and hope they didn't snore too loudly. Did people sleep better back then? Maybe, or maybe not. They slept when the sun set. They rose with the dawn. Their bodies followed the rhythm of the seasons. More sleep in winter, less in summer. There was no scrolling, no screens, no notifications. But there was hunger and fear and illness. Many children never woke up. Sleep was both precious and dangerous, and yet people dreamed of a better harvest, of a kinder Lord, of a world where wolves didn't steal sheep, and war didn't come knocking. Some dreams were small, a warm blanket, a quiet night. Some were big, a holy vision, a life beyond this one. They say kings and beggars dream alike, that in sleep all are equal. Perhaps that is why sleep has always been sacred, mysterious, strange. We may never sleep like medieval people did, waking at midnight, sharing our beds with goats, or placing knives beneath our pillows. But we can listen to the echo of their dreams, to the stillness of their nights, to the way the world once turned, without rush, without glare, without noise. Let that thought rest with you now. Let the candles flicker low. Let the fire die down to embers. Let the chickens settle in their straw. Let the bells of the monastery fade into the night, and you too close your eyes, drift, sleep as they once did in the silence between centuries. Good night.